Okay, so I just want to do a quick Chapter 8 wrap up, just reviewing what we've done so far, which is confidence intervals. And we did confidence intervals for the mean mu and for the proportion pi. So created this little flow chart to help us organize like what we've done so far. So the first question is our confidence interval for the mean mu or the proportion pi? Because if it's for the proportion pi, then we're going to use this formula. We're going to take our sample proportion p plus or minus z alpha over 2 times its standard error of the square root of p 1 minus p divided by n. Okay, so just one formula for proportion. But now let's say we are interested in doing a confidence interval for the mean. So mean mu. So then we need to ask ourselves, is the population standard deviation known or unknown? So is it known? If it's known, so yes, then we're going to use this formula, x bar plus or minus z alpha over 2 times sigma divided by root n. But if the population standard deviation is not known, so no, then we're going to use this formula. So x bar plus or minus t n minus 1 degrees of freedom alpha over 2, and then we're using s instead of sigma and divide by root n. But we do have a couple of, well, we really just have one assumption for this case. So whenever sigma is unknown, so we need to make an assumption. The assumption is that if the sample size is small, let's say n less than 30, then we need to assume that the underlying population is normally distributed. But note that this isn't an issue for large samples, right? This is not an issue for large sample sizes. By that I mean n bigger than 30. Why? Well, because of the central limit theorem. Let's recall what the central limit theorem says. It says that if our sample size is at least 30, so if n is at least 30, then we can assume that x bar is approximately normally distributed. Because if it's a small sample, that's where we need to make this assumption, and we need to assume that the population is normally distributed. So anyway, hopefully this flow chart helps. This is essentially everything we did in Chapter 8. And next video, we will be starting Chapter 9.